What if you never had to pay property taxes again? Not reduced, not deferred, not refunded, eliminated, zero on your primary residence forever. It sounds impossible, like something politicians promise on the campaign trail but never actually deliver once they are in office. But right now, 5 states are actively working to make it happen, and this isn't just theory. Legislation has been introduced, bills have passed, funding mechanisms are being tested, constitutional amendments are appearing on ballots. And in one state, implementation is already underway. For retirees, this could be the biggest shift in retirement planning in a generation. Think about what total elimination would actually mean for your life. No more budgeting for property tax increases that never stop coming. No more fear of being taxed out of a home you have lived in for decades. No more watching your fixed income get eaten away year after year by a bill you cannot control. Just zero every year, forever. Welcome to Tax Hack Pro. Today, we are counting down the 5 states preparing to end property taxes forever, from the states just getting started to the one that is closest to making it real. Some of these states might surprise you, and number 1 definitely will. Let's start with number 5. Number 5, Kansas, the fresh push. Kansas might not be the first state you think of when you imagine a property tax revolution, but that is exactly why it could surprise everyone. In the Kansas legislature right now, bills have been introduced to phase out property taxes on primary residences. Not reduce them, phase them out entirely. This isn't some fringe proposal being ignored in a committee. It is gaining serious traction, and here is why. Kansas retirees have been feeling the squeeze. Property values across the state have climbed, but fixed incomes haven't kept pace. The state already has the Safe Senior Program, a refund program for qualifying seniors that shows Kansas believes in property tax relief. But refunds aren't enough anymore. The push now is for total elimination. And it isn't just one party driving this. A coalition is building across political lines because everyone understands a fundamental truth. Retirees shouldn't lose their homes to taxes they can't afford. If property tax elimination could change your retirement, hit subscribe to Tax Hack Pro right now. We are tracking these movements as they happen, and things are moving fast. You need to know where the relief is coming from. Kansas is just getting started. Legislation has been introduced. Momentum is building. A coalition is forming. But they are not alone in pursuing elimination. Number 4 is further along, with voters potentially deciding the issue directly through a constitutional amendment. Not a bill that can be repealed next session, but a constitutional mandate. The question isn't whether to reduce property taxes, it is whether to eliminate them from the state constitution itself. That state is next. Here is how Kansas is approaching it. The plan involves a phase-out over multiple years. Not overnight elimination, but a methodical transition. Seniors and disabled residents would be first in line, then expansion to all primary residences. The state would replace the lost local revenue, keeping schools and county services funded at current levels. The challenges are real. Revenue replacement is the primary concern, and balancing rural and urban needs takes work. But the political will is growing. What seemed impossible a few years ago is now being seriously debated in the state capitol. Kansas could move faster than anyone expects. Kansas at number 5. Fresh legislation, growing momentum. A state just beginning its push toward elimination. But the further we go up this list, the closer states get to actually making it happen. Number 4 has taken the question directly to voters, asking whether property tax elimination should be written into the state constitution itself. When voters decide, politicians have to follow. Number 4, Idaho, the constitutional question. Idaho isn't waiting for politicians to decide whether property taxes should be eliminated. Idaho is taking the question directly to the voters through a constitutional amendment. Here is the difference. A bill can be passed one session and repealed the next. A constitutional amendment is permanent. It becomes the foundational law of the state. And in Idaho right now, there is a serious movement to make property tax elimination a constitutional mandate, not a request, not a suggestion. A mandate that the legislature would have to implement. The movement in Idaho is grassroots, driven by citizens, not politicians. Organizations have formed specifically to push property tax elimination onto the ballot. Petition drives are gathering signatures at grocery stores, community events, anywhere people congregate. Public rallies are building awareness and momentum. And here is what has caught everyone's attention. Polling shows strong public support. This isn't a fringe idea that voters will reject. When asked directly, Idaho residents want property tax relief, and many want elimination entirely. The legislature has noticed. They are introducing parallel measures because they see which way the wind is blowing. Here is how the constitutional path works. First, gather enough signatures to get the amendment on the ballot. Then, voters decide. If they approve, property tax elimination becomes a constitutional mandate, not a policy suggestion, but a requirement baked into the state's foundational law. The legislature would have no choice but to implement it. And unlike a regular bill, a constitutional amendment cannot be easily repealed by the next legislature. It is as permanent as it gets in American government. The focus would be primary residences first, with a phase-in period to manage the transition, but the destination would be set. Zero property tax. Idaho is taking elimination directly to the voters. Constitutional amendments that would make property tax elimination the permanent law of the land. Strong public support. Active petition drives. A legislature feeling the pressure. But number 3 doesn't need a constitutional amendment to get there. They have already built the infrastructure for elimination through the largest exemptions in American history. School taxes frozen for seniors, and now serious discussions about taking the final step. That giant is next. The challenges in Idaho are real. Gathering enough signatures for ballot access takes massive organizing. Opponents focus on school funding, arguing that property taxes are essential for local schools. Rural counties that depend heavily on property tax revenue are concerned about the transition, but the momentum is undeniable. Amendment efforts are active, public support is strong, ballot access is being pursued aggressively, and the legislature is introducing parallel measures, hedging their bets in case voters force their hand. Idaho could have property tax elimination on the ballot sooner than many expect. Idaho at number 4, the constitutional question, voters potentially deciding to eliminate property taxes permanently, strong public support. Active ballot efforts, a legislature feeling the pressure. But the next state on our list is already most of the way there. They have raised exemptions to historic levels. They have frozen school taxes for seniors. The infrastructure for elimination is already built. They just need to take the final step, and legislators are talking about it. Number 3, Texas, the incremental giant. Texas doesn't do anything halfway. While other states talk about property tax relief, Texas has been building elimination piece by piece, and they are already most of the way there. In November 2023, Texas raised its homestead exemption from $40,000 to $100,000. That is the largest homestead exemption in American history. No other state comes close, but that is just the foundation. For seniors 65 and older, Texas adds another layer, an additional $10,000 exemption on top of the $100,000. And then, the most powerful protection of all, the school tax freeze. At age 65, your school tax is locked permanently. Whatever you were paying that year becomes your amount forever. The school district can raise rates, values can skyrocket, your school tax stays exactly the same. When you combine the $100,000 exemption, the senior exemption, and the school tax freeze, many Texas seniors are already paying near zero property tax. The infrastructure for elimination isn't being built. It is already built, and now the discussion in Austin has shifted. Legislators aren't just talking about more exemptions, they are publicly discussing full elimination. The sentiment is growing. Why stop at near zero when we could go all the way to zero? Multiple bills have been introduced pushing even further than current law. The governor has signaled openness to bolder moves, and Texas has something most states don't. A massive budget surplus that could fund the transition. The 2025 and 2026 legislative sessions could be pivotal. Texas has proven it is willing to act big. The question is whether they will finish what they started. Texas is already most of the way to elimination, the largest exemptions in America. School taxes frozen for seniors, legislative discussions about going all the way to zero. But number 2 took a completely different path. They moved past exemptions entirely to a completely different model, refunds. Pay your property taxes, then the state sends you a check for up to 100% of what you paid. And once you are refunding everything, elimination is just paperwork. That refund pioneer is next. How would Texas finish the job? The state would replace the property tax revenue that local governments lose, possibly through sales tax adjustments or from the budget surplus. A phased approach would manage the transition, focusing on primary residences, while businesses and investment properties remain taxed. The challenges are real. Texas is massive, and revenue replacement at that scale is complex. But Texas has already proven something crucial, a willingness to act bigger than anyone expected. The $100,000 exemption seemed impossible until it happened. Full elimination might be next. Texas at number 3. The incremental giant, record exemptions, senior freezes, legislative discussions about full elimination. They have built the infrastructure. Now it is about taking the final step. But number 2 has taken a completely different path. Instead of exemptions, they refund your property taxes directly, up to 100%. And when you are already giving all the money back, elimination becomes almost academic. The logical next step is just removing the middleman. Number 2, Nebraska, the refund pioneer. Nebraska asked a question nobody else was asking. If we are going to help people with property taxes, why reduce what they owe when we could just give it back? Nebraska doesn't use exemptions the way other states do. Instead, they use refunds. You pay your property taxes like normal, then you file Form PTR, the Property Tax Relief Form, with the state. And Nebraska sends you a check, not a small check, for qualifying seniors up to 100% of what you paid, the full amount back in your pocket. Through LB 243, expanded significantly in 2024, Nebraska has built an aggressive refund program. Income limits were raised, meaning more seniors qualify. Refund amounts were increased, meaning bigger checks. For low-income seniors, the refund can cover 100% of their property taxes. Even higher-income seniors receive significant partial refunds. And here is the logic that makes elimination almost inevitable if the state is already refunding 100% of property taxes. Why bother collecting them in the first place? Think about it. You pay the county keeps it, then the state sends you a check to replace it. There is administrative cost at every step. Elimination would be simpler. Just don't collect from primary residences in the first place. The political momentum tells the story. Each legislative session, Nebraska expands the refund program. Eligibility gets broader, amounts get larger. Opposition to property tax relief is losing ground because the argument is so simple. We are already giving the money back. Why not just stop collecting it? And here is what makes Nebraska number 2 on this list. The funding is already proven. The state is already paying for these refunds. Elimination wouldn't require finding new money. It would just cut out the middleman. Nebraska has built a pipeline. Create refunds, expand eligibility. Increase amounts, approach 100%, then eliminate. They are at step 4, heading towards step 5. Nebraska is already refunding up to 100% of property taxes. The funding is proven. The political will is demonstrated. Elimination is just the logical conclusion of what they are already doing. But number 1 has gone even further. They aren't talking about elimination. They aren't building toward it. They passed the legislation, and they are implementing it right now. One state has actually done what every other state is working toward. Nebraska's current status, refunds up to 100%. Funding mechanism proven, the state is already paying. Political momentum strong and growing. The logic for elimination is compelling and simple. The timeline could happen sooner than anyone expects. Nebraska is number 2 because they are functionally already at near elimination. They have proven the funding works. They have demonstrated the political will. They just need to take the final step. And when they do, they will become a model for every other state that wants to follow. Nebraska at number 2, the refund to elimination pipeline, already giving back up to 100% of property taxes. The question isn't whether they can fund elimination. They are already funding it. The question is just when they take the final step. But number 1 isn't waiting to take any final step. They have already taken it. Legislation passed. Implementation underway. One state is actually eliminating property taxes on primary residences. Not planning to, not building toward it, doing it. Number 1, North Dakota, the elimination leader. North Dakota isn't planning to eliminate property taxes. They aren't building toward it. They aren't discussing it. They are doing it right now. House Bill 1158 and related legislation has passed. Implementation is underway. North Dakota is actively eliminating property taxes on primary residences. This isn't a promise for someday. This is happening. The state that every other state on this list is trying to become, North Dakota, is already there. Here is how North Dakota is making it work. The state has significant oil and gas revenue, resource wealth that most states don't have. Instead of that money going to other priorities, North Dakota is using it to replace the property tax revenue that local schools and counties would lose. Schools still get funded, counties still operate, fire departments, libraries, local services, all still funded, but the bill doesn't come to homeowners anymore. The state covers it. Primary residences are the focus. Businesses and investment properties are still taxed, but the home you live in, zero property tax for retirees in North Dakota. Think about what this means. The average property tax bill in North Dakota runs $2,500 to $3,500 a year. With elimination, that becomes zero. Every year over a 20-year retirement, that is $50,000 to $70,000 that stays in your pocket instead of going to the tax collector. And unlike every other state on this list, there are no applications to file, no forms to submit, no deadlines to meet, No income requirements to satisfy, just zero. You own a primary residence in North Dakota. You pay zero property tax. That is the goal, and implementation is underway. And here is why North Dakota matters beyond its borders. If North Dakota succeeds, if they prove that a state can eliminate property taxes on primary residences while still funding schools and services, every other state will have a blueprint. Proof that it works, political cover to try it themselves. Kansas, Idaho, Texas, Nebraska, they are all watching. What happens in North Dakota could be the beginning of a national movement. The future of property taxes in America might start right here, right now in the Northern Plains. The countdown recap: Kansas at number 5, the fresh push, legislation introduced, momentum building, a coalition forming. Idaho at 4, the constitutional question, voters could directly mandate elimination. Texas at 3, the incremental giant, already near zero for many seniors through record exemptions and freezes. Nebraska at 2, the refund to elimination pipeline, already returning up to 100%, making elimination the logical next step. And North Dakota at number 1, the elimination leader, legislation passed, implementation underway. Proving it can actually happen. 5 states, different approaches. One goal: zero property tax on the home you live in forever. Property tax elimination isn't a fantasy. It is happening right now in North Dakota, and 4 other states are working to follow. If you want to know when your state joins the list, make sure you subscribe to Tax Hack Pro. We track these elimination movements as they develop so you know exactly what is possible and where. Comment below: is your state working toward elimination? Do you want it to be? What would zero property tax mean for your retirement? And share this video with someone who needs to know that property tax elimination is actually possible. A friend, a family member, a neighbor who thinks they will be paying property taxes forever. They might not have to. The future of property tax might be zero. These 5 states are proving it.